Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I wanted to do another Q&A video here. So this is my last Q&A before the season starts. Next week's Q&A is going to be focused a lot on what happened in episode 1. And obviously a lot of talk about episode 2 and whatnot, right? Going into that episode here. So we're only 2 days away now until the Walking Dead Daryl Dixon is here. Finally, honestly, like this has been like the longest drought for the Walking Dead that I really remember. Like honestly, it's been really hard to talk about the Walking Dead just in general over the last however many months, because there hasn't really been a lot to talk about. Thankfully, the last 2 months, things have picked up quite a bit, but in the summer, it was really rough. There wasn't really a lot to talk about, and I saw a lot of those complaints. A lot of people were saying, wow, it feels like there's just nothing on right now for The Walking Dead. I want to get excited about this or that. I want to watch something else that's good besides The Ones Who Live, because the finale disappointed me, and yeah, just a really weird time to be a Walking Dead fan this year, for sure. Like, things have just been very off, but we have Daryl Dixon Season 2 airing in just 2 days from now, so obviously I will break down every single episode, break down every single trailer, all the news that we learn. Comic-Con is next month. I think it's in like 3 weeks from now, so we could get some updates on Rick and Michonne, a new spin-off series, anything like that. We are going to get another look at Dead City as well, so yeah, a lot to look forward to here. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. But let's get into the first question here of the Q&A. So Q&A. Would you agree at all that the best Fear characters are better written than the main shows? I'd honestly put Strand and Nick above any of the main people we have left, except for Rick. I compare Madison to Maggie, and I honestly think Madison is more compelling. Season 3's characters, such as Daniel, are more exciting than even Daryl now, because I feel like they've become sort of superheroes at this point. The Ones Who Live's finale didn't help at all. I don't know, would you agree with that statement at all? And do you think any preference is purely because we've been with Daryl, Carol, etc. for so long, rather than them actually being amazing characters? See, I think, like, I don't know, I would definitely, I guess, disagree with it overall. I do understand, I guess, some of the points that you do make. You know, I think the one thing about really amazing characters is, like, if a character is around for a couple of seasons and then is killed off, and, like, again, is only around for 2 to 3 seasons, and I've talked about this a lot, like, the best side characters are characters that, you know, are only around for 2 or 3 seasons, because you die before you get to the point where your character gets boring, right? Like, I look at Herschel. Like, Herschel was around for 3 seasons. Really incredible character. You look at a character like Merle as well, and Shane. Like, there's just a lot of characters that I look at over the years, and I'm like, if some of those characters were still around, yes, there's certain things about it that would be exciting, but it's possible that they would have gotten boring over time. But I still look at the main cast of The Walking Dead, like Rick and Michonne, Maggie and Negan, and Daryl and Carol, and I look at them and I'm like, you know what, there's a lot more of a story here. And I think the one thing about The Ones Who Live in terms of them being like superheroes, I get that. Honestly, that's more of a writing thing. I think that's sort of the issue of having The Ones Who Live, or having just these spin-offs being 6 episodes in general, because like, you have to rush through all the stories so much. And so, you know, like, certain moments will seem so crazy, and yes, they are trying to make it very movie-like, and so it becomes a little unrealistic sometimes, but I think overall they have managed it. Like, honestly, the Ones Who Live finale was just really kind of out there. Like, if you really look at what they did in that very last episode, it was really something that The Walking Dead has never done. Even like the spinoffs, like Dead City and Daryl Dixon season 1 for both shows, they never did anything like that, where a big explosion happened and wiped out everybody, and like somehow they survived. Like, the Ones Who Live's finale was absolutely insane, and I think that's why there's still so much criticism there, because when that happened, it was, honestly, I just kind of laughed about it, and it was kind of disappointing, because I was like, what, really? How are Rick and Michonne going to survive that? Like, that's insane, but they did, and they were totally fine. Like, that's just, again, that's one of the things that I think it was just really that show. Really, the other spinoffs haven't really experienced that yet. Like, yes, there might be really crazy moments, but I think they've handled it overall. And I just think of like Madison and Daniel, or Nick and Strand, and I'm like, what if they had their own spinoff, just like Daryl does? Like, I just don't think they could really hold their own in a spinoff. Like, maybe Nick, I could see that, but obviously the character's dead. But the other characters, I don't think they could. Like, I really honestly don't think they could, because they're not like the main cast of The Walking Dead, right? Like Daryl, Carol, Michonne, Rick, Maggie, and Negan, all of them could have their own spinoff, like 6 separate spinoffs. And I think they could honestly hold their own, and it would be really amazing. So I would have to, I guess, disagree with it overall, but I do understand sort of what you're saying. Q&A, I've long theorized that I believe Carol won't reveal who came back right away. There's a long build up until the finale where we see a flashback between Carol and Rick just before Carol left, and this reveals that it was Rick who Carol was talking about. I mean, Norman Reedus did say that this was the best 1 hour of The Walking Dead ever, so it isn't hard to believe that Andrew Lincoln could be a part of this, as well as Andrew Lincoln being in France when season 2 is filmed, and he could have filmed something quick. Even if Andrew Lincoln doesn't appear this season, I believe he will in future seasons. What are your thoughts? So I would have to say that I think the reveal could happen. I don't think Andrew Lincoln's going to be in this season unless it's like a flashback of some sorts with Carol and we see Rick and Carol actually reuniting. I don't think we're going to get that because I feel like in terms of the spoilers that have been out there, I mean, again, there's not really any spoilers out there, but like in terms of early reviews, I feel like they would have mentioned something like that, or there would be something there where we would all be like, oh, that is really interesting. Like that seems to tease this or that, right? So I think like maybe we get the Rick, he came back sort of thing, reveal from Carol. But besides that, I think that's basically it. I could see Andrew Lincoln showing up at some point in the future. But the thing about that too is I really do think that if they're ever going to do the reunion, it's going to be on like The Ones Who Live season 2 or 3. And so I think that we're just going to have to wait for that. Like I'm starting to believe that The Ones Who Live season 2 is definitely going to happen at some point in the next couple of years. And then I don't think, Daryl's going to be on that show though, because obviously he's doing his show. But after that, for a season 3, that's where all the characters will be, I guess, on The Ones Who Live. I think that just makes a lot of sense because doing a separate spinoff, an Endgame spinoff, you have to market it differently. And I just think that coming up with an entirely new show title and everything would just kind of be a lot. The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live feels like a sequel to The Walking Dead. So I would have to say that the other ones are spinoffs, and I think that those ones would probably go into that show. But again, not for a season 2, because I think there's a lot of story you can do with a season 2 still, but for a season 3. Just because Daryl Dixon and Dead City, obviously those shows are going to be continuing for quite a while. There's talk of like a season 4 already, which won't be out for a while. And then if you just think about past that, I'm like, I think these shows are going to get 5 or 6 seasons. So I think they'll probably do another Rick and Michonne story with Morgan and something else there, like something more simplistic survival horror, as Andrew Lincoln was saying. So Q&A, hey, how are you, man? How's life going? My question for you is, could we eventually see a return to 10 or even 12 episode Walking Dead seasons? I missed the longer episodes where we had more downtime with our characters. 6 episode seasons feel a bit too rushed. Also, random question, but did you watch Squid Game on Netflix at all? It's a great watch. Season 2 is in 3 months, December 26th. Love all you do. Thank you so much, and I am doing really great. I think that well, first of all, I did watch Squid Game. Really incredible show. I didn't even know season 2 was coming out then, but I'm excited for it now. I think that we will see a return to like the 10 episode or 12 episode format. I really feel like right now, AMC is trying to figure out what to do with The Walking Dead in terms of, what fans want overall. And I do think what they're doing right now isn't really necessarily the best. I think that the way it was run towards the last couple of years of The Walking Dead and also going into last year, I actually think was really great. Like you had a lot of spinoffs, and yes, the quality wasn't the best, but you did change that over time. Like I just think that you have to understand more of the story stuff. Cutting back on a lot of the content like they have, it's made such a big difference because I feel like going into Daryl Dixon season 2, there isn't as much excitement, and we'll have to see what the ratings are going to be. But I feel like that really, honestly, like not talking about The Walking Dead, not having other shows, not building out this whole universe like they were doing, seems to really have ruined a lot of the hype for The Walking Dead, because I think fans feel a little lost right now, like what's going on, because there was so much excitement for this and that. And yes, the Ones Who Live finale kind of ruined things with the CRM, but there's a lot of places you can go. You can go in so many different directions. And so I just think that you do need to make it a little bit more of a universe like you were doing. And obviously everything is still there. It's just that we're in a very weird place right now where everything just feels too quiet, and there's like not a lot of Walking Dead content out there right now. And so I just think that that's sort of what their approach is like, what? A lot of people keep saying this and that, like, oh, there's too much shows, this and that, or whatever. So let's actually just give them like no shows. And that's honestly sort of how I view them thinking about all of this, because it just makes sense as to why The Ones Who Live was the only show that came out this year. Daryl Dixon's, I guess, is coming out in the next couple of days. But after this, we got to wait until February or March. And yes, Daryl Dixon will be out in November. So from November to February or March, isn't really that long of a wait. Like we're going to go through the holidays and then all of a sudden it's January and then Dead City is going to be airing in like 2 or 3 months. So it's not going to be so bad. And then Dead City also is going to be 8 episodes. And so that's definitely so much better. That'll take us until like May basically. And then we really only have to wait until, again, September probably for season 3 of Daryl Dixon. So it's not going to be as bad. This wait from The Ones Who Live was definitely really insane, but I just still think that there needs to be another spinoff, another original spinoff. Like that's the thing I think with the Walking Dead universe that I want to see the most. Like, yes, Tales of the Walking Dead season 2 would be cool if you actually told proper stories, had the governor back and all of that, but I kind of want a new original story. I think a lot of people would check that out because they would be like, wait, what? Like, this is a new story with like newer characters. A lot of fans of the Walking Dead in general would be like, oh, this is kind of cool. I wonder if these characters could be really cool. And then just have another new show to watch, right? Just an entirely new show. Like Fear the Walking Dead was really the only original show that I would say was truly original. Like, yes, World Beyond kind of was, but I don't know. It was still sort of connected to The Walking Dead in some way because of the CRM and everything. Like, I would just say that Fear the Walking Dead was very, very original. You know, it just really felt like an entirely new story with new characters, and I want to see that again. So I do think that, you know, they're going to see that, you know, the next little bit here. I think they'll see the ratings probably drop, and I think that they're going to be like, all right, we need to start to pick up things here with The Walking Dead, and so I think we'll get longer seasons, more spinoffs as well, because obviously everyone is wanting that, and so, yeah, I think it's eventually going to happen. And so I think that we will get 10 episode or 12 episode seasons. For sure 10, I don't know about 12, but I think we will eventually go back to 10. Q&A, who do you think is the best on the Empty Minds podcast? Well, I guess I would have to say, I've been looking at the comments here, and I would have to say Brandon is my favorite host because everyone else is saying that. So yeah, I'll say Brandon. Q&A, why do you think variants are not implemented in the other spinoffs? I mean, they have something so new, fresh, and exciting, and walkers did behave far more erratically even into season 3. So you would have to think they will implement them in every spinoff, right? Daryl Dixon seems extremely fresh with the variant walkers, and it has been objectively the best spinoff so far. Walkers weren't really a threat the last few seasons of The Walking Dead, and these variants will bring back the fear factor, and they're just cool, to be honest. Yes, I agree, and I think even if the variant walker, or not the variant walker, because remember, there's a lot of variants out there. I keep calling the super walkers the variant walkers, but the super walker story could end this season if Madame Genet does die, but I think that going into season 3, they are going to still have those elements there. Like, Dead City had the Walker King, and yes, it's not necessarily a super walker or anything like that. There's not a bunch of, you know, super walkers or walker variants in Dead City, but I think they will eventually go in that direction because that was something that fans really wanted. And the one thing that I know from AMC and just The Walking Dead in general is that sometimes, I mean, not sometimes, they'll make mistakes with the story. Like, you know, you look at The Ones Who Live finale, you look at killing off Madison and all that. People watched Fear the Walking Dead forever. Like, people just kept watching it like year after year because they were honestly hoping that Madison would come back or that they would fix the story. And so, you know, The Ones Who Live, obviously that ending really, I think it really frustrated a lot of fans. I think they know that. Like, they know how people responded to that. And so I think they will fix that. And if you know, the Super Walker storyline ends and people are really disappointed with that, and then if season 3 is not as exciting or something, they'll fix that right away for season 4. Like, that is just sort of what they've always done, right? And that's what happened with Fear the Walking Dead. They eventually brought Madison back, right? And thankfully with Daryl Dixon, if a character actually left and they brought a character back, like the story's still there, so it would be still really great, right? Like, the writing is still amazing. Whereas I think on Fear the Walking Dead, bringing back Madison didn't really fix the story, so there were still so many issues there. But yeah, I think that eventually a lot of the, you know, there will be a lot more variants that we'll see in the other spinoffs. Q&A, do you think that they will continue the main Walking Dead show someday? It would be nice if The Ones Who Live took over as a sequel to the main show and went on for a couple more seasons. It makes sense because even in the finale of the main show, we hear a bunch of the main cast saying, "We are the ones who live." Yes, I could see that. I actually mentioned that earlier in the video, actually, that The Ones Who Live was like a sequel to The Walking Dead. I can see that for sure. And I think that, you know, if they ever, I mean, I don't know, like continuing the original show would mean you would have to rebuild certain sets, and that's what I mean by The Ones Who Live feeling like a sequel. I think that's a show that honestly could fit really well as a sequel and just be the show, like actually just be the show that you watch after The Walking Dead. And then if you want to see what happened to other characters like Daryl and etc., you just watch those other spinoffs. But after The Walking Dead's over, you go and watch The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. It tells that whole story. And then in a season 2 or a season 3, you sort of have the other characters show up, and then, you know what I mean? I think that makes a lot of sense. And this way, a lot of fans in the future, say it's like 40 or 50 years from now, right? Like, everything's already come out. and you finish watching The Walking Dead, you're like, okay, what do I watch next? And it's like, okay, just go watch The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. You'll see that story there. You'll see how season 2, maybe Morgan comes back, this and that. You'll see another story. Season 3, you know, Rick reunites with Daryl and all that. Maybe you're wondering, well, where was Daryl? And then you're like, oh, he was in France. And you're like, wait, what? Then there's the other spinoffs to watch to see what happened to Daryl after The Walking Dead and all of that. But I think The Ones Who Live should be like the main sequel. So that's why I kind of think that going forward with another story, a season 2 makes the most sense instead of doing a new series, right? Q&A, do you think in the final Endgame reunion with all our beloved characters, do you think it's possible we can see Super Walkers then? Love your content. Thank you so much. Yes, I think Super Walkers will show up at some point. Well, I don't know about Super Walkers, but different variants of Walkers definitely will show up because obviously that's a really exciting part of The Walking Dead right now. We will for sure see them in like an Endgame spinoff. It just really depends on the story because I don't think it's going to be the same thing that we're seeing on Daryl Dixon right now. I think it'll be something different, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Q&A, do you think that Dr. Jenner could still be alive and show up in The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2 finale as a cliffhanger? I don't think he could be alive, but I think that, you know, the laptop and some of the files that Pouvoir seem to have had, or the scientists there in France, I think some of that could come up again. I think we could see some connections there with Dr. Jenner. But in terms of him still being alive, I think that would sort of ruin the finale of season 1 of The Walking Dead. So I would say no, he's definitely not alive, but I think he could still show up in some sense because of the connection there, right? But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Q&A, let's assume the whole Daryl wearing CRM armor player model in Call of Duty is a spoiler. How would you feel about the characters exploring European CRM bases, as it seems almost a too convenient way to allow Walking Dead characters to appear in Europe or for Daryl/Carol to return to the US. I think that it is a possibility that could definitely happen. I just don't know how fans would really like a story like that right now. Like, honestly, whenever I talk about the CRM, I just see comments right away about like, oh, I hate the CRM arc. Don't talk about this and that. Like, I want this story to go away. I want to watch real Walking Dead content like Daryl Dixon and whatnot. So it's just one of those things that I think if you bring up the CRM at all, fans aren't going to really like that too much, I don't think. I think overall people wouldn't be the most excited, but it depends on what you do with the story, I guess. You would have to make it a little bit more exciting, I think. But yeah, personally, I don't think it was a spoiler. I think they just sort of messed up, and I don't even really, like, honestly, I don't even know why. I mean, it's very cool to see Daryl in CRM armor. I don't think we're ever going to see that on The Walking Dead, so it's just kind of cool to see that, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for posting all of your questions here. I mean, honestly, really fun Q&A here. I'm so excited for The Walking Dead to be back. And yeah, so post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one.